You are watching Access LaPorte County, Channel 97. Coming up next is the March 11th, 2024 meeting of the Michigan City Redevelopment Commission. You can find more information for this meeting by visiting www.accesslaportecounty.org.
Good afternoon. We're ready to start the meeting for the Michigan City Redevelopment Commission. This is our regular meeting. Today is Monday, March 11th. We'll start with roll call. Mr. Gertner.
Here.
Clarence Hulse. Is he on?
I do not see him on.
Okay. He may be joining us via Zoom shortly. Sheila Matias, I'm here. Tracy Tillman.
Present.
Sherry Wilson.
Present.
Tom Dembkowski. He's absent today. We're attended by Skylar York, our planner, and our attorney, Alan Cernak. Welcome, everyone. We have two sets of minutes to approve. The first is for the February 12th executive session. I would entertain a motion. I know everyone has reviewed those.
I would like to make the motion to approve the minutes for the executive session on 2/12/24.
We have a motion. Tracy, a second? Thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Motion has carried. Minutes for the executive session for the 12th of February have been approved. Next, we have the hybrid regular meeting minutes for the 12th of February. I would entertain a motion.
A motion to accept February 12, 2024 hybrid regular meeting.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of the approving the minutes for the 12th of February hybrid regular meeting, please indicate aye.
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 There are no nays. Minutes have been approved. Skylar, there are claims for March 11th.
This is the claims docket for March 11th, 2024. We have payroll for February 2024, CDBG reimbursables, staff and commissioners. We have from the operating account, we have Saranac Law Offices for legal retainer for February of 2024. From the North TIF, we have Baker Tilly for arbitrage reporting for the 2015 Wabash Street Bond. We have Barnes and Thornburg for legal services for the North TIF ending on 1/31/24. Barnes and Thornburg for legal services for Bloxham arbitration period ending 1/31/24. Butler, Fairman, and Seifert for engineering Washington Park Boulevard streetscape 2/1/23 to 2/28/23. This was a lost invoice. There's a note out to the side, so it's gotten paid. Butler, Fairman, and Seifert for engineering services for Washington Park Boulevard streetscape 1/1/24 to 1/31/24. Reprographic Arts for our double track project parking lot signage. You might recall this is the signage we have to do to designate our alternative parking areas in preparation for the garage to be built. Saranac Law Offices for legal services for the North TIF February 2024. We have South TIF for Haas and Associates, engineering services for South TIF connectivity improvement for 1/29/24 through 2/25/24. Reith Riley for South connectivity improvements paving, first and final pay. This is Saranac Law Offices for legal services for South TIF February 2024.
Thank you. Are there any questions or can we accept the report with a motion? Any questions? I would entertain a motion to accept the claims as presented.
I'd like to make a motion to accept the claims as presented for March 11th of 2024.
Thank you. A second?
So moved.
Thank you, Tracy. We have a motion, and a second to approve the claims for March 11th, 2024. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any nays? The ayes have it. Claims have been approved. So next we have our financial report dated the 31st, 2024. Are there any highlights that you want to share?
I don't have any highlights for this, but I will get to just the balance sheet and go over that. If that's
great.
okay.
Perfect.
So it'd be okay for me to.
Yes, please. I'm sorry.
Yes, Madam President.
Yep.
For our cash operating account, we have $174,256.09. From the Southside TIF account, in the Southside TIF account, we have $8,414,535.53. From the Southside TIF debt reserve account, we have $336,308.50. Southside TIF capital account, we have $16,199.79. In our North End TIF account, we have $4,787,691.07. In the East Side TIF, we have $494,957.93. In the Northeast TIF account, we have $889,070.94. From our loan receivable, we have a county business loan fund. We have $133,333.00 for total assets of $15,256,352.85.
Thank you. Any questions? Do we need to have a motion or can we just?
Probably
Move motion? Okay.
accept the
We'll take a motion to approve the balance sheet as presented.
I'll make a motion to approve the balance sheet as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Gertner.
I'll second the motion.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. All those in favor of accepting the balance sheet as presented signify by saying aye. Aye. Any nays? Motion has carried. Thank you. So next we have a summary on our facade grants.
Yes, we have two facade grants tonight. Our associate planner, Kyle will be presenting them. We have 124 West 4th Street, which is commonly known as the Ritz Club. And we have 320 East 2nd Street, doing business as Blue Waters Lodge.
Good evening, Board.
Good evening.
RC Tap House and Grill LLC has applied for the facade grant, or also known as the Ritz Club at 124 West 4th Street. The property, as well as the applicant, has met the eligible requirements for the program. They are requesting reimbursables for $15,000 for brick cleaning and repairs, caulking, painting, siding, and trim, in addition to the replacement of the front facade, repairing the windowsills, and staining the door for a total improvement cost of $26,120. This applicant has submitted all of the required documentation in addition to receiving a certificate of appropriateness from the Historic Preservation Board on January the 18th, 2023. The proposed work is in historical nature and will stay with the existing style of the building and will improve the exterior appearance and will continue to contribute to the economic activity of the downtown area. Staff recommends approval as submitted of funding.
Thank you.
But see Mr. Rule in the back. Would you like to add anything? If you're more than welcome. You can come up here to the mic. Yeah.
microphone, please.
We appreciate you being here.
I have a few things I just want to read.
If you could introduce yourself and
My name is Ben Rule,
for the record.
and I'm the owner of the Ritz Club Tavern here in town.
Okay.
First of all, thank you for letting me come before the board. The importance of this grant can and will be extremely significant to the Ritz Club historical property rehabilitation. Since May of 2020, when I took over ownership of the property, I've so far invested over $100,000 in the property, in interior tavern enhancements, apartment renovations, and a beer garden addition. The next step in the rehabilitation of the property is obviously the facade, which we're talking about today, as well as 3 other sides of the building, all the brick sides and the very back of the building, a roof replacement within 5 years, and paving of the parking lot. All of these projects combined come to an estimated cost of $125,000. In addition, I also continue to invest in the renovation of the additional apartments that are on the property, and the small house that is in the back of the property as well. This grant would be significant help in restoring the facade back to its former condition. I've already received, obviously, the COA, everything that Kyle has talked about today. Currently have a contractor that's scheduled in June to start on the work. Tucholsky Construction, he is a home builder. He's also done a few other historical properties in town, comes well recommended. We've already gone over everything. We've submitted the materials, all of that we're going to be using. And obviously, we're going to stick with the original architecture that's there and restore all of that. Add some lighting to the front of the building so it's a little bit safer and enhances the actual architecture and shows it off a little bit to the city.
Thank you. Any questions from the board? Well, this is great news.
Well, thank you.
Really great news.
It's been long overdue.
Yeah,
So
that's wonderful.
Yeah.
It's kind of a community treasure, so
Yes, it is.
we're really glad
I
that
plan to
you're-
take care of
yeah,
it and
yeah.
reinvest in it. And the patrons of Michigan City and all the people that visit have been able to allow me to reinvest in the property. So I will continue to do that.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Tyler, anything?
No, I just appreciate you being here. It's nice to see that
Absolutely.
when the owners come out and
100%.
be here.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you guys.
Thank you. So what are our next steps?
Well, he's making our staff has made a recommendation of we've reviewed Mr. Rule's application. We're making a recommendation that we should reimburse. This is approximately 57%. We cover up to 60% of the total of what he's putting in. Keep in mind, Ben, that you're only getting 15 grand, so you're eligible for up to 30. So at some point in time, if you come back to us, you'd have some extra money to kind of do some other things. you
Sure.
know.
So in the notes, Jason has also bidded out the other three sides of the building. And that's gonna roughly come between 13 and 15,000 for the painting, the scraping of all the paint. And then there's gonna be some tuck pointing involved and
Sure.
some resealing of the brick.
So you just work back with Kyle
Yeah,
and
I
just
can
bring
do
it
that.
back to us. But
Yep.
for right now, let's get
Sure.
the front cleaned
Absolutely,
up
let's get
because
it
it's
done.
getting warm.
Yeah.
So Kyle's made a recommendation for approval. I think at this point in time, it's up to this board to make a motion to approval up to 15 grand. Okay.
Great. Thank you, Kyle,
Thank
for
you.
your work on this. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
I would like to make the motion to grant the 15,000 grant to Arcade Tap House and Grill for their facade improvements.
Great. We have a motion. We have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second on the floor to accept the facade grant request for RK Tap House, really known as the Ritz Club, for $15,000 from the Redevelopment Commission. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any nays? No nays. Thank you, sir. We're excited. Oh, Clarence, you are on? Clarence has joined us.
Okay.
So I will presume Clarence is an aye. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, we're all set.
Kyle, go ahead with our next one.
So the next one is for 320 East 2nd Street. Wake Robin Inc. is applying for a facade grant for 320 East 2nd Street. The property as well as the applicant meets the eligible requirements for the program. The applicant is requesting a forgivable loan for $30,000 to replace windows, doors, hardware, light fixtures, siding, and trim, in addition to making some replacements of the facade in terms of the fascia, soffits, gutters, signage, as well as paint, for a total improvement cost of $70,000. Staff recommends approval as submitted.
If I might,
Yes, please.
keep in mind, this is not in the historic district. So what we used for determining this is just our normal design guidelines that are applicable to the Marina District, which Kyle reviews when they're submitted by Mr. Radke. And it seems that Kyle's reviewed it and they meet the requirements for the design standards that are applicable.
Thank
Little
you for your
different.
work on this, Kyle. Is there anyone that from the public that wishes to speak to this grant request? All right, I just want to be sure no one was here
Okay.
for it. Mr. Radke?
Mr.
like to
Radke,
speak?
would you like to speak? You don't have to if you don't like to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
You're more than welcome to come up if you like. Just a little bit. Yeah, tell us a little bit about it.
This is what we're envisioning. We have on your desk
Yeah.
what it looks like this morning. And I think we can all agree that it needs a facelift.
Yeah.
And so we've been waiting a long time to get to this point. And this is just me. I'm no artist.
Go to the mic. Oh, no, right behind you, Dan. And Mr. Radke has come before us with a couple of other buildings we've worked through with him. And he's been very good about doing what he's completed the projects on each
Yes.
building. So
So Dan Radke and my company is Wake Robin Inc. Wake Robin is a flower called a trillium, if you're not familiar with that. We develop, buy, sell, and manage real estate. And Pioneer Pier is our project here in Michigan City. And Pioneer Pier, if you're not familiar, is between Galveston Restaurant and Bridges Restaurant. And this building is like smack dab on Second Street in the middle of those two properties. So it's a 6-unit apartment building, which is full and stays full all the time. And I have been busy doing other projects, and we finally got around to this one, and I think we can all agree that it needs a facelift. So here we are, and I appreciate not only being on your agenda, but I appreciate you sponsoring this program. It's really an impetus to get things done. So Kyle told you, what we're gonna do. This picture kind of gives you an idea of what we want it to look like in the end. I have colors from Sherwin-Williams that will do, and they blend nicely. So it'll be tearing off all the vinyl siding and putting new wood siding on, and some new windows, and like Kyle said. So appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Radke.
Okay, let's get her
Thank
done.
Thank you.
You've done great work in our community. We
Thank you.
appreciate
I
that.
appreciate it.
thank you for being here tonight.
I would entertain a motion to accept staff's recommendation to approve the facade grant request for $30,000 to Wake Robin Inc. for the work as described at 320 East Second Street.
Second.
All those, sorry, we need a motion before I, Clarence, were you making a motion? Okay, let's, do we have a motion?
Yes, making the motion.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
All right, we have a motion and a second to pass this grant based on staff's recommendation. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any nays? No nays. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Radke, and your family.
Thank you, Kyle. Go ahead.
All right, anything else?
Nope,
Okay.
I'm good.
All right. So next we have the Butler, Fairman, and Seaford LPA contract for the Washington Park Boulevard Streetscape Project continuance.
Yes, so I do want to take a little bit of time to maybe go over a little bit about the project. It's a carryover project, and it's a project we've been working on for a while. It's a NERPC project. It's a complete street project. I don't want to steal all the thunder from Jake because he does a really good job of explaining it much better than I do. But
Thank you.
I will tell you that we started this project, I don't know, 3 years ago. It's a NERPC project, so it's on a 4 to 5 year cycle. So you get certain amount of money over that time, and then you can construct it. We're getting near construction phase, and so that's why we're here tonight. We are in the right of way phase, and I'm going to let Jake take it from there.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the commission. I'm Jake Damerell, Executive Vice President with Butler, Fairman, and Seifert Civil Engineers. Skylar, good introduction. The project has been awarded construction funds through NERPC in an out year, and what that means is that we're still some time away from actually getting the construction funds, where we will more or less compete for those funds in the future, but have been guaranteed some amount of federal participation. Typically, these projects are an 80-20 split, with 80% of those funds coming from the federal dollars that run through NERC. So this project has progressed along on a federal aid procedure through NDOT, having gone through the proper NDOT reviews up to this point in time. As noted, we were selected for design some time ago, I think about 2 years ago, maybe a little longer. And we've gotten to the point now where we have identified what right-of-way is needed for the project to move forward. Essentially, what happens is after you get to the point of about stage 3, or say somewhere in the neighborhood of 60% of your plan development, you've identified the right-of-way need for the project, and then you begin the appraisal process and the right-of-way acquisition process. So I'm not quite, I know Sylvia wants to talk to the contract on that, but just a little background on what the project actually is. Excuse me, essentially, it is on Washington Park Boulevard from South Lake Street to Loran. It is a road improvement project, if you will, that includes pedestrian amenities, as well as curb and gutter drainage improvements, and the more or less a shared path on the roadway for bicyclists, which would be signed on the pavement as like a Sharo type sign that is a share the road for those that are on bicycles as well as roads, and basically to improve connectivity to the lakeshore. As you all well know, Singing Sands Trail runs through the city and is continuing to be built out. This will allow for a spur of that to come to the north and make its way up in towards Washington Park. I'll leave these here. They're from Sylvia's office from a prior public meeting, so those are available for you to take a look at. It kind of just shows you the basics of the new sidewalk installations that will occur behind the curb, the driveway approaches that will occur as part of the project, and then the road will be more or less milled out, patched, and then resurfaced at the conclusion.
Yeah.
So where we are right now is that we were able to help the city get federal money for right-of-way, which it didn't have prior. There are about 21 parcels that are needed for the project. So through NERC, we were able to solicit for funds with them, and we're able to acquire the funds, which would allow for 80% participation in the right-of-way acquisitions. And it's kind of a work in progress right now that's going on, but just a few weeks ago at the meeting, that looked to be very promising. So as a result, the city went through the process of an RFP, because anytime you use federal funds for any phasing of a project, you have to go through a request for proposals process. We were selected for the right-of-way services component of this project at that point in time. That has gone through NDOT review. That puts us here tonight in front of you with the agreement in your hands for review and approval. It's my understanding it has gone through NDOT, but I won't steal Sylvia's thunder and let her go for it.
He's basically said everything. I am Sylvia Martin. I'm the Assistant Director of Planning for those of you who aren't aware. Like he informed you all, we went through the process where we acquired 3 bids, and they qualified the highest, and they were selected. The documentation was sent in, our contract was approved through NDOT, and with their approval, we need now to enter into a contract with them for the right-of-way funds. And in order to do so, we must have signatures from the redevelopment department for the 80-20 federal funds that will take place for this project. So that's what you see in your hand. Well, you have copies, but the sheet of packets up there needs to be signed and to be submitted. But that is basically what he said. So I'm gonna let him take back over.
Thank
I'm
you,
just
Sylvia.
scared.
Thank you.
Jake, is there a monetary amount we're asking for tonight, or are we just asking for approval of the signatures?
Our contract is for a total not to exceed of $121,540. As it stands, 80% of that would be funded federally. You'll notice in the breakdown in Exhibit D that there are like lump sum versus unit prices depending upon what the work type is. For those that are unit prices, obviously you pay for what is necessary. There's a couple of buffers in there depending upon things that might be needed with right-of-way engineering and such, but that 121,540 is a not to exceed amount for this contract.
Thank you.
Can you break down our 20%? I'm so sorry.
So your 20% would be about $24,000 of
that's
the
what I was-
total 121,540. Yeah.
Okay, and then on top of that, total project cost, just to give an order of magnitude
Sure.
for total project cost when we get to the construction phase.
Yes.
Just so we can put it kind of in perspective.
Sure. Range $1.25 million, somewhere in that ballpark.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions?
And for the signatures are we looking at a open window or is this something that, is there a deadline to have these submitted or signed?
Probably sooner than later, because we're actually going, we have, we need to make sure we get our federal money through T-Rock.
Yeah.
Or Transit Resources, I can't remember what it all stands for.
Transportation
Resources, yeah.
Their,
Oversight Committee.
Their fiscal year ends in May, so we have to go through that process of submitting, making sure signatures are appropriate for that allocation, because keep in mind we're a year ahead. So we're a year ahead, so we need to get through with their May. We need to get in within their end of this year for next year.
Right.
So look,
Good.
I just
No.
learned.
Good
Yeah,
explanation.
the state fiscal year ends
Yeah.
in June, so
June,
yeah, they'll
right.
be into 2025 in July. It's, yeah, always fun math.
So I believe Mr. Saranac has already reviewed this. And then so tonight we'd be approving this with the not to exceed 24,000, whatever that would be. And then basically we'll go to T-Rock and hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll get our federal money for that, and then we can move forward. The next step is after this, after we get all the right of way done, as Jake alluded to, this is just another step to get us to construction, which then we can we can start stacking up the money inside that to make sure we can complete the construction. So it's a long wait with NERC, but it actually works out in the end. So
We'll kind of be back doing this whole process again for that next step.
Okay, thank you.
Just to be clear though, Jake, what we're doing tonight, I know, I always take the worst case scenario, but what if the funding doesn't come through? Then this contract we're basically approving this contract contingent upon the federal funding coming through.
Yes, and we wouldn't begin until we are issued a
Right.
notice to proceed. So the way these work with the federal contract is there wouldn't be a notice to proceed associated with a purchase order until the point in time in which federal funds are obligated.
Right.
So even though you approve this tonight to meet the timelines, we aren't going to start incurring any costs in terms of the right-of-way services. To your
That
point,
was
yes,
good.
contingent upon
Yeah.
federal funding.
So I think that your motion for this will be approval of this with, and I don't know that I would put in the actual 25,000, but I would put in there from the viewpoint 20% of the total engineering services contract value contingent upon federal funding.
Perfect.
Perfect, that's our motion. Thank you. So we would like to present a motion on the floor. As Mr. Cernak described it, this is a contingency based on the federal funds, and so we'll 20% based on the contingent. federal fu-
20% of the 121,540 for engineering services contingent upon federal funding coming through for the entire project, which I think we all know is pretty much a given, but
Yeah.
I'm
Good
giving
safety
as much
net.
as we can.
Yeah,
Right.
good safety net. I would entertain a motion.
So moved.
Bill, thank you. Tracy,
Second.
a second. We have a motion and a second on the floor. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Just as a point of order, as it relates to, because Clarence is not here directly, we do need to do the roll call for each individual because somebody's here by hybrid.
Okay, gotcha. Gotcha.
So
Okay.
I let the first one go, but
Okay,
before we do any more, we should.
All right.
Because it has more money involved. that's all.
yeah, so we're going to do this one on a roll call vote. We have a motion and a second on the Butler Farron Seaford LPA contract. We will call the roll. Mr. Gertner,
Aye.
Clarence Hulse,
Aye.
Tracy Tillman,
Aye.
Sherry Wilson,
Aye.
and Sheila Matias, aye. We have a majority. All those in favor is all members that are present have voted. in the affirmative, so it has passed. Thank you so much. Let's move on.
Thank you for
Thank
being
you.
here. If you,
Thank you,
maybe,
Clarence.
yeah, if anyone from the public wants to look, just kind of maybe set them over there. Yeah, go ahead and take them. Yeah, go ahead and take them that way if they leave and want to look at them, or they can look at them. Thank you.
Next, we have authorized global engineering to prepare the annual maintenance plan and report to NDOT for I-94 421 overpass.
So this is a project that as we, you may notice that we have our, improvements to the overpass, at the, exit, 421 exit. Those were, when we did that with NDOT, we basically signed on that we would do a yearly maintenance agreement, for that. Typically it runs about $3 to $4 grand. I think I would ask us to not approve or to approve, not to exceed $4 grand is what I'm being told. But we have to do it every year and it's due by the 31st of this month. So they're actually in the process of preparing it. Our city engineer, Tim Werner, will then take it and submit it. But what it does is it tells us what's wrong and what we need to fix. We're not on the hook for that. It doesn't, that's not us. That would be the city to do that. One thing that I know is going on down there right now is we have some lights that are out. For some reason, the lights always go out. So I'm asking them to take a hard look at the lights and see if there's anything better that can go in there. And something that looks a little bit better and same color, etc. So that it looks good when you see our city.
So it's a not to exceed figure of what?
Yeah, I think we would need to approve a not to exceed $4 grand.
Okay.
I'm sorry I don't have it here with me tonight, but it's something that needs to get done. And we told NDOT we would do it on a yearly and it's due on the 31st.
Okay, got it. I would entertain a motion to authorize global engineering to prepare their annual maintenance report to NDOT in a not to exceed figure of $4,000.
I'll make the motion.
Second,
All right, we have a motion and a second. Thank you. Roll call vote. Mr. Gertner,
Aye.
Mr. Hulse,
aye.
Ms. Tillman,
Aye.
Ms. Wilson,
Aye.
Mrs. Matias, aye. We have everyone, Mr. Demkow is not here. So everyone has voted aye. It has passed.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have a change order for HRP construction. Skylar, could you explain that to us?
Yeah, I'm gonna explain a little bit and then I'm gonna hand it over to Alan because Alan's been more involved in this. Essentially what happened was you may recall that we awarded the trench interceptor, I believe at the last redevelopment meeting? 2 meetings ago. Since that awarding, we actually found out we've started the project, but in the middle of that starting the project, doing some kind of I guess reconnaissance work we were doing, we found that one of the sewers was collapsed that we actually needed to line. So we actually worked with the sanitary district. We have a plan for that, but it's going to be a kind of a redirection, I would say. And then with that, I'm going to hand it over. I think Joe's online. Is it Joe?
Joe Baker.
Joe's online from HRP. Very, very knowledgeable about this project. But I would say that's just something, it was an unforeseen circumstance, kind of out of their hands and out of the Redevelopment Commission's hand, and probably out of the sanitary's hands as well. So with that, Alan, do you want to take over?
Basically, what happened, the first step of the project, we didn't get very far.
No.
The first step of the project was to actually put a camera down the sewer line to figure out exactly how the liner would work. And they didn't get very far with that because the sewer was collapsed. So then we had to come up with a plan B, and in consultation with the sanitation district, we did come up with a plan B, and so you start with what we had from originally when we approved the contract with HRP, and now we have to go around that plus rebuild the sewer line in order to be able to get the trench interceptor in place. So where we were 2 months ago is now the second step of this process because we need to fix the first step first. The other unforeseen circumstance, when you go to the cover page then from HRP, The second, for the installation of a new open cut gravity sanitary sewer for a cost of $134,700. And the point repair of the existing sanitary sewer on East 8th Street and east of Walker Street. That's a total of $59,100. Those two projects total up $193,800. And in consultation with the sanitary district, we are going to pay for that. Originally, it's just because it makes more sense so we can keep the project going, but that will be subject to all or part in reimbursement from the sanitary district. The first part of that, and I think you need to look at this from two different perspectives. The first part, when we talk about dumpsters, that was another lovely surprise we received from IDEM, that the original plan was to dig it and haul it and get it out of here. Well, now IDEM is saying, no, you have to have special dumpster to do that. It has to be transported at a further distance. It cannot be just done in a one-shot deal. It has to be done over steps. And that's going to slow down the whole project as well. And that's what then accounts for the additional $128,400, which again was an unforeseen circumstance for the change order. So HRP, Jared, you obviously know a lot more about this than I do, but that's from the 10,000 feet viewpoint as to how we got to this point and why we've had to deviate from the original plan. I guess, Jared, if you have additional comments to better explain
Absolutely.
this.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay,
Thank you.
great. Yeah, I think Alan actually spelled it out really well. I mean, for where we've, where we started at and where we're kind of at today. To break it down, I guess if you take just the original contract, if everything were without the sewer change that we were able to line that sewer as planned, we have this first change of the 128,000, which involves bringing in dumpsters and loading those. So where we would normally haul out a bigger quantity in a dump truck, we'd get it out. That dump truck would make multiple rounds a day. We now have to load it into a lined dumpster, so none of this gets outside of there. But in combination with that, we've also gotten some grace, we believe. As August Mack has identified, I think there was another statute out. So we've been able to minimize. I think we're going to be allowed to leave, and this is the basis of this price, is only dirt that will not go back in the hole will end up getting hauled off. So that saves some of our haul off, but it makes the other half really, really hard and extends that out for us. So we actually, that surprisingly enough, or shockingly enough, that does include a credit for not having to landfill some of that material as well. So, and that 128,000. So there's some of that will remain in the trench, basically where we don't have to replace that dirt. Like this interceptor trench we're putting in is designed to be an open aggregate. The natural material that's out there won't drain like this, what's going to be imported in. So it lets all of the groundwater seep into it, collect in a perforated pipe, and then go into the sewer to be treated. And I believe that is the big intention of the project, is to get rid of that groundwater, which is contaminated, or not to get rid of it, but to keep it from spreading and contaminating more area. And I think as August Mack has kind of done some more initial investigation and dealing with IDEM and sorting through that side of it, they've said, nope, everything has to go in dumpsters, as Alan said. And we believe there's the exception of roughly 300-ish feet of the pipe that'll get to be put back in the same trench. Then as far as the new open cut sewer, I think Alan explained that really well. The sewer, as we videoed it, it's kind of an initial step. The lining guys have to video and they clean the line, assess the condition and get measurements on it. As they were doing that, they weren't able to access this pipe. They tried from the other end and were able to identify a collapse in the line. Replacing that pipe in the same path was not feasible or economical there as well, given there's just a number of other utilities in that area that would have made it impossible, or very hard, if not impossible, to dig that line in. And then the point repair, the existing line has two 45-degree bends in it, and the lining guys are not able to line through those bends. So we will dig that up. We will let them line to that dig up point, and then we'll reconnect with new pipe in between there, so we have a good seal.
Thank you so much for that information. Great
You're
report.
welcome.
Two other things that this does, though, from where we originally approved the trench interceptor. Obviously, we haven't started yet, so obviously it hasn't been installed yet, so obviously there hasn't been that February test from IDAP. Meaning that we will not get this project will not be completed until the interceptor project will be completed, obviously. What we figured out, I think I talked to Joe today, and we thought we're still looking somewhere in April or May, maybe in May, I think. Is that right? If everything goes right, Jared?
Yeah, we might be able to do it sooner. Obviously, today's decision is a big factor. We had kind of talked and discussed before, is there any of this we can kind of prepare ahead of time? And much of it involves bringing these dumpsters in and starting some big expensive operation that would get in motion. So we weren't able to really start that. So we do have to get that in line, since we've kind of had our schedule thrown about and off of here. We have moved into a different job, and we're hoping we can free up a crew. I actually just talked to our general super today, and hope would be in about 2 to 3 weeks we could free some people up to be there. But it could be, if we can't get them freed up from that other job, which we'd be able to pull just temporary, we got to get it wrapped up to where we can temporarily leave and come here. Otherwise, yeah, it'd be April, May. But our goal is to get there as soon as we can.
And then the other part that we're changing, we have to come up with new plans. Once we have approved this, once we actually get the actual dates certain for that, then we need to go back to the Board of Public Works and request a street closure. Again, differently from what we did the first time, where we looked at closing it for a week and inserting the trench interceptor and doing some ad hoc type of repairs to the road, and then coming back and shutting it off in a week and then finishing it up in better weather. This time, we're probably looking at, when I talked to Joe today, he thought it could be as much as 4 consecutive weeks to get everything from beginning to end. Is that pretty much on target?
Yeah, that seemed about right, because we do have to parallel along the existing road there for a second time now, and then we'll have a second road crossing to get across.
So that'll become the next step, is after we approve this tonight, then we need to go to the Board of Public Works and actually have a closure for probably the better part of a month. So once we get those steps identified.
Okay. Thanks for that detail. All right, you've heard a lot of information about this change order. I would entertain a motion to approve the change order for $322,200.
I'd like to make the motion to accept the change order as presented.
Thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you, Tracy. We have a motion and a second to accept the change order as presented. We'll do a roll call. Mr. Gertner?
Aye.
Mr. Hulse?
Aye.
Ms. Tillman?
Aye.
Ms. Wilson?
Aye.
Ms. Matias? Aye. All those in favor have approved, and the motion has passed. So your change order is approved.
Jared, I'll get in touch with you and Joe tomorrow.
Thank you, Alan.
Thank you, Jared.
Thank you. Great. Next, we have on the agenda the discussion and approval of a quote for the Meyer Drive fence. And Skylar, maybe you can give us some of the.
Yeah, I'm
history
gonna
of
let
this.
Sylvia take this. Just some background. Sylvia's been working with me to get the actual quotes, and we own a piece of property to the north of Myers. It's more or less a wetland. And Myers, probably in the last 2 years, put up a black chain. You might notice they put up a black chain link fence, which theoretically catches all the things that blew across their parking lot. But there's also 2 entrances there. And then so basically what it does is it pretty much funnels them through the entrance, and then they blow through the entrance and get in our property. I've been asked by our, I've just been asked if we would explore the option of putting a similar fence for about 500 feet to at least catch what goes through the fence or through the drives at least catch it on the other side so that it's not blowing all the way into the wetland or getting into the trees, plastic bags and trees, things, etc. We've also been asked to kind of clean it up. Well, first of all, the first step is probably putting the fence up so that we don't clean up and then end up with more trash in there. The length is about 500, 550, 600 feet. So it's not a small, insignificant fence. It's actually a very large, long fence. I've also asked it to be black coated, nylon coated or vinyl coated. The reason why is I held Myers to, we held Myers to a standard of, we didn't want just chain link fence out there. We wanted it to be black coated. The black coating kind of fades away into the landscaping a little bit better than just regular, and it lasts longer. So we held ourselves to the same standard. That's what we asked to quote. It is a 6-foot tall fence. Once we get the fence installed, then we would be cleaning back behind it. That's something we have yet to get quoted out, but also there might be some opportunity to work with some of our city forces to get some of that done as well. But first priority, fence. Sylvia, take it from there. Thank you.
Skylar said it. We sent out a request for a quote to a total of 6 fence contractors. We gave them a week, last Friday, the Friday before last to last Friday. And they had to submit the quotes. We acquired 3 quotes, but we noticed from the quotes that they were sending us that they were not including the brush removal or any of the things that were impacting the area that will prevent the gate from being there properly. So I had to go back and contact the 3 that submitted to see that this include brush removal. We noticed from one of our quoters, I keep trying to say bidders, but one of our quoters, the Northwest Indiana Fencing Code, they do not do brush removal. And they quoted us $18,550 just for the 6 feet, 560 feet chain link fence, and it's 600 feet total. So we had to see about that as well. But however, they do not do the brush removal. However, we went to Works Group Fencing, who was the second quoter. We found out that he did not include, or he put in bold letters that it did not include brush removal, which made us look at the others. But his first quote was $17,675. Once he realized that we needed him to clean up the brush behind, it became $28,250 for, so basically $10,000 just to remove a brush. That just tripped me out. But the airing fencing solution, their quote included, from the beginning, their quote included the brush removal, and their quote is for brush removal. They also gave us as you look at the drawing, based upon the stability of the area, they recommend that we put the fence in with a bump out around the electrical posting because of the drop off behind getting closer to the wetland. It deteriorates a lot quicker, which means that you'll be re-putting the fence in if you even go a little bit farther back. So they actually went out and reviewed the site, which I thought was very efficient, measured and identified it as 600 feet. And they also are going to do the black gauge fence with black nylon. Their total is $19,500. However, they include the brush removal and also the pre-analysis of the soil in that area.
Yes, so they'll be doing the there are some power boxes there. They're going to have to call in a locate for those. But they're actually going to be going around the power boxes and staying closer to the road.
Yes.
Which I think is better. I don't know that there's going to be that much brush removal because behind the power boxes, there's approximately about 5 feet back there. We don't want to get into the wetland because A, we shouldn't do that. B, we don't want to be sinking poles in a wetland. That's just not what we need to be doing. Our goal here is to protect to basically keep trash out of the wetland. Once this is in, we will probably have quite a significant amount of trash to be pulled out of there. We actually have, there's just a lot of just things they've blown in there that we should at least do. I think this will offer some protection for it though. I don't know that I don't know it's going to keep everything out of it, but we'll try our hardest.
Yeah. And the good part about it is that as we move forward with the cleanup, we can couple it with another one of our programs, our landscaping program. As we know, throughout they mow them and things of that nature, and then they clean up the debris before mowing. So that can couple in with the cleanup of this area as well, which is why we wanted to kind of do the fencing first, which will help with our landscaping outline and our rubbish cleanup.
Yeah, it'll just be added to the cycle.
Yeah.
The landscape cycle.
So Sylvia, your recommendation is Aaron's fence? I
My
presume?
recommendation is, did it come off like that? Mhm. Mhm.
Would you come to the front, please? Ma'am, come to the front and introduce yourself and speak into the record.
Hi, Sylvia.
Hi.
Hi, I am Judy Carnes, the owner of Works Group Fencing. And I had asked you how far off the road we were gonna go, because I also went out and took the measurements, and there's not much brush at all if you go behind the electrical box.
Yeah.
So what we saw when I was out there, our property stakes within the wetland. So I didn't know if that's what you guys owned, and that's where you were going from point A to point B. So my bid would be the original 17 something without the brush clearing, which is, there's none, you know, if you're going behind the electrical box. So I just wanted that to be noted. You know.
No, it's duly noted.
Yeah, okay.
No, thank you for coming up. Well, what do you want to do? What, Alan? I think that changes our perspective.
It does.
The question
I'm looking
is-
for some guidance.
The question is then, does the $17,675 quote, is that responsive to the needs of what we're trying to do?
Yes, it is definitely a commercial fencing. We're not talking residential fencing. It's a different caliber of fencing. Could I ask a question of the owner? Would this be, if you don't mind? Yeah, come on up.
Just stay here.
Yeah, stay up here with us for a minute. If we can stay, I don't want to get in the wetland. I want to stay out of that as much as possible. There might be some trimming of like low hanging things. I'm thinking the majority of this is going to be as close to our curbing as we can, because it falls off significantly past that, and it probably just doesn't lend itself to having a pole sunk in it. I would say as long as we think we can hang to stay with kind of that line where we go around everything and it fits, I'm okay with saving some money if we possibly can. Alan,
Well,
I just,
I just did some quick math here and I did some quick scope analysis.
absolutely.
And so the one without brush removal is at $32.13 a linear foot. And you get brush removal at $32.50 per linear foot. So for under 40 cents, you're getting a little bit more, and you're getting 600 feet instead of 550 by going with the one that's at $32.50 per linear foot. Huh?
There's some savings there.
So actually, even though it appears to be more, you have more savings on Aaron from a scope analysis point of view.
But they're charging you for trimming that doesn't need to be done. Right? They said 19 something?
Well, this other one though has another 10,000 on it for,
That's next day if we're going up by the road.
okay. but that's for 550 linear feet.
That's what I was asked to quote was 550.
Okay. Cause we got
And
one.
from property stake to property stake.
Okay.
550.
Cause all three of them have different lengths. One's at
Right.
560, one's at 600, one's
So
at.
the
550.
measurements, excuse me, the measurements were taken off Beacon, and then they were encouraged, you know, they have to go out to verify. I get that. So it was between 600 and 550 as the feet from Beacon, but Beacon is always off like
Mhm.
10, 20 feet or so, whatever. So it was between 550 and 600 regardless. So, and I'm pretty sure the others went and utilized Beacon as well, or well, I know that Aaron's went out. I don't know how they took their measurements because I didn't have that conversation. And I know the other one used the Beacon as well. So we all use Beacon,
Okay.
basically.
I went to the
She went
property.
to the property.
For me, the most complete bid would be Aaron. They included everything, so that's kind of what I'm leaning towards.
So I think at this time, I think Aaron's is probably the most responsive from what we're looking at, and that's what Sherry's looking at too. I think we got to go with what is the most responsive bid, what we asked for. This is where we're at.
You're still held to the same level, the same standard. You
Yeah.
still have to go to the first thing, the first standard is what is the most responsive quote? And if all of them meet that criteria, then the second question comes down to which is the lowest cost. I mean, that's what you've got to have. So the question comes up then is based on your impressive work, far exceeded me. But if you get to the
That's
point of
what's
just from the analysis, what you're saying, and based on that, then it would seem to be, we're talking about that not only are all three responsive quotes, but that would be the lowest unit cost, and so therefore that would be the lowest and most responsive quote that we received. So I think based on that, you have, unless you want to make a deviation from that, and that gets into a whole nother area, but you have to go then with the quote that's been submitted by Aaron's Fence.
I think that's where we're at.
So you're going by my $17,000 quote or by what she gave?
We have to go with what is the most responsive
Right, but at the
bid
same-
and our lowest bid,
My
basically.
bid was 17. She had me add on all that brush clearing down into the swamp.
Yeah, and I mean,
But that's not my quote.
yeah, I think we still have to stick with Aaron's though from our analysis.
But from what you're saying, Sherry, is that
I don't-
you did the comparison on the 17,000 quote, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
That's the answer.
off of a linear footage price. Okay, sure.
Yeah, we turn your mic on.
At that linear footage price, one includes a service where the other one does not. So therefore,
You're gonna do it because it doesn't need to be done. You're paying $2,000 for him to do nothing. Huh?
but he's also doing 50 feet more length of fence too.
Right, which we would have no problem doing, which I don't, calculating at what mine was for the 50 feet. What's 50 times whatever he told you?
Do we table it?
Here's what I'm going to suggest.
That's a-
Here's what I'm going to suggest. I'm going to suggest we table this tonight to allow us to allow everyone to give a equal to equal bid. We're gonna table it. I would ask that we table it.
Quote.
A quote. It will also give us time to arrange our cleaning of behind it as well. If that'd be okay. That will put us in April. Hopefully you don't have a ton of work in April. I know it's getting warm. I really want to get this done, and I know it's something that we've been wanting to do for probably over a year now. I don't know. What is the thought of the board on that?
Well, I did the quick math right here and that would bring, if she did the same length, that would bring her bid to 19,278. And then his bid is 19,500, but we still have the contention that he does do brush removal. So this would have to be rewritten to include brush removal.
Right, which is like I say, where you're saying put it, there is no brush.
Yeah, there's gonna be, that's why I was kind of,
That's why I asked her how far up the road you were wanting to go,
Yeah.
because those property stakes are 16 feet in.
correct. They're actually
If you're
pinning
coming
our,
up by the electrical box, that's like 4 feet off the road.
yeah,
Meaning
those
it takes
property
time.
stakes are actually pinning our property. We're trying to stay in the city right away where we're catching it before it even gets to the property
Right,
at
which
this
there
point in time.
Would be no brush.
So we have a comment. We have a comment.
Comment.
Mayor.
Mayor.
Yeah, and if you table it, all I suggest is that there's no change in the linear square footage price for any of the vendors, because now we've talked about all of them.
Yeah.
So whatever you're gonna do in addition to,
Right.
because now it's all open.
Yeah.
Again, when we say there's no brush clearing, are we saying there will never be any brush clearing? Because if that's the case, and there will be some, you have everything you need. But if not,
Yeah.
but I just don't want anybody of the three bidders, there should be no changes in their basic costs.
Right.
It should be whatever's in addition if you're gonna do that, if you so choose to do that. But it's whatever your pleasure is, whether you table it or you approve it tonight.
What's the pleasure of the board?
I think,
I'd recommend that we table, so we're ensuring we're comparing apples to apples.
Ms. Tillman, you had something to say?
Ms. Tillman.
There's a motion on the table. I'm sorry. I'm not in support of the motion, so you could do it by vote.
No, we don't have a second, so, okay. All right, so the motion has died for lack of second. Sylvia, you had something to say?
Yeah.
Could you put the mic in front? so we
Yep,
can hear
yep,
you?
yep.
Thank you.
Yep, you can have a seat.
Okay.
Just to help for clarification, if we decide not, this was turned in first. It came in that day that the bids were submitted out. So I understand, with brush removal, Aaron Spence, he was the first one to contact me. He was the first that day. I got this quote. If you look on there, he called and he got it back on 3/5. So, and I understand. And this was originally with brush removal. I contacted them. She is right. I contacted them and asked her, was this brush removal? At that point, she said, no, it would determine how much brush would be needed to be removed. I'm not a brush removal expert, so I said, I'm not really sure, but there is some. She said that there will be another cost. This was the second cost that I got yesterday. So if we're looking for communication and more efficiency, I recommend Aaron Steele.
All right, thank you. That staff recommendation is clear. Are there
Thank
any
you, Sylvia.
No problem.
motions? Ms. Tillman, do you
Motion
have
to
a motion?
approve.
Thank you. Second.
I didn't hear Clarence. Clarence, what was your motion?
Motion to approve. Staff recommendation.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the staff recommendation of Aaron's Fence Solutions. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve Aaron's Fence Solutions as presented. I will run through the roll call. Mr. Gertner,
No.
Mr. Hulse,
Aye.
Ms. Tillman,
Aye.
Ms. Wilson,
Aye.
Ms. Matias, aye. We have 4 ayes, 1 nay. Motion is carried. The project has gone to Aaron's Fence Solutions. Thank you. Let's move on. We have some updates and I guess staff updates?
Yeah, just staff updates.
Okay, so we'll start with 11th Street Station, the garage and residential tower update.
Yes, so we have foundations have started to be placed in the ground. So we're looking at probably bringing in the actual structure. Will start coming into the city. You'll start seeing it be staged at the Franciscan lot down on Wabash and Barker. That will probably start at the end of this month. The weather is good right now, so they've been pouring a lot of concrete. We have a groundbreaking, the official groundbreaking on Thursday, the 14th, for this project. And it's hopefully going to be an exciting day for Michigan City and in Michigan City. We have a lot of people from the state coming and a lot of representatives being that will be in attendance. Alan, am I forgetting anything that we need to of importance to add to this? I don't think so. I think that's everything right now. It's just exciting to see the weather break to some extent and then getting in our foundations.
I think what's really important on that 11th Street station is that we've talked about this for, it feels like forever and ever and ever.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's a lot of doubting Thomases out there. This is definitely a sign that
Yeah.
the project is, if they can't see the tracks with their eyes, they will now be able to see construction of a beautiful garage and residential tower, which is huge progress for our city.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Any questions for Skylar? All right, let's move on then. South TIF connectivity improvement project updates.
Well, one of the updates we have, we actually have full ownership of Lowe's. We have an executed ownership agreement of Lowe's, which we've been working on. Alan's been diligently working on that for, I don't know, almost a year, maybe over a year, a while. We actually have an executed agreement. We own the Lowe's Drive now. You may recall that we have already put some pavement out there and done a project out there. What else is going on out there? We're still in the process of working with Myers to get ownership of that piece of road as well. And once we get that, we will start the dedication process, put it into our official roads, and then that way it's added to our MVH fund and actually added to our CCMG eligibility funds as well. So that's the importance of having the ownership of those roads so we can maintain them. At this point in time, I don't know that I have anything else with the downtown. I will say that I do have a new development coming in, and with the new sidewalks that we've put in down south, they will continue. This new development will continue the sidewalk and just abut to this sidewalk that we have installed, which I guess is just a success story for trying to get the sidewalks in, and now they're actually seeing the benefit of them. So it's nice.
It's great news. Any questions on that? All right, let's move on to the SOLA site. You Are Beautiful, also known as You Are Beautiful.
Yeah, so
Still
You're
the same?
You're Beautiful is we're still working on this project. I will be meeting with their bond counsel, our bond counsel, and their bond counsel will be meeting this week. We'll be having discussions. Hopefully we'll be laying out a calendar of our bond calendar that will hopefully we can follow pretty closely. You may have noticed next door that a lot of the flags out in the You Are Beautiful site, they're in preparation. NIPSCO is preparing to move the gas line that goes through the middle of You Are Beautiful, and it'll be relocated out of the project area. That way, when we get ready to break ground, we do not have to move a pretty big gas line out there. That's what's happening. It's just so you know, it's getting relocated. So things are happening with SOLA. It is a big project, so just bear with us. It is still in the works, and we will start like I said, we'll start the process of talking about redevelopment agreements and bonding this week yet. So that's what we're preparing for.
Great, thanks. Any questions or comments? All right, move on, report by legal counsel.
Two things. One, there was an executive session before this meeting tonight. No items were discussed that were not permitted by the open door law, and no decisions were made. The second thing, just to follow up on an action we took last month with respect to still trying to identify insurance carrier for Aaroncraft, who was one of the primary polluters on the Trail Creek properties. We do have a judgment against them. It's just been they've been very good at avoiding service both in Michigan City, LaPorte County, Indiana, United States, India. We have moved heaven and earth trying to collect on that judgment. The purpose for your approval last month was paying Ice Miller, the law firm that represented Aaroncraft, in another action not related to Michigan City, but there was an insurance carrier in that, and that's what the purpose is behind that. I have not heard back from Ice Miller yet. In fact, when I bugged them today, they said, "Oh, thanks for the reminder." So I need to do more bugging, I guess, as opposed to just once a month. But hopefully we'll have an answer next month then. That's all I got.
Thank you. Planning Director?
I don't have an update. I think, there's just a lot of things going on in the city, so just bear with us. Again, we have quite a bit of development coming. We are in the process of finishing up our RFP that will become, that we approved for, the Memorial Hospital site. Clarence and I have been working very diligently on that, and it's coming together quite nice. And it's going to be exciting to release that. So stay tuned. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any members of the public who'd like to speak under public comment?
Hello, this is Tommy Kulavic, 1316 Ohio Street. I'm also the Common Council's appointed to the Michigan City Fire Merit Commission. I'm president of the second ward. Yeah, first want to say I was really
Welcome.
pleased as punch when Mayor Angie appointed you to the Redevelopment Commission, Miss Madam President, and
Thank you.
you're now the president. Because
Thank you.
I felt, but during your tenure as mayor, the Michigan City really underwent a renaissance period during your time.
Wasn't that nice?
I want to mention something that really important, that we're actually, this is 2024. Probably this is the 25-year silver anniversary of one of the biggest redevelopment projects that ever happened. It's when 25 years ago in 1999 is when fire stations number 1 through 4 opened. You know, that goes back to your time as the mayor, and when our good friend Ralph Martin was the fire chief. Shout out to Ralph in Virginia. So I just want to recognize all the current active and the retired firefighters that made that transition from the old fire stations to the stations 1 through 4. I also want to say, I think we all know as we speak right now, the $500,000 renovation of our old band shell is taking place. That was really, $350,000 that was done through private donations and corporations. The other 50, council approved the ARPA funds that be done. And I just want to say there was a great moment to remember. It was on August 18th, 1996, when President Bill Clinton came to visit us. And I'm sure, you met him on the train in Kalamazoo. He entered the whistle stop tour here, and then he took the motorcade over to the park. And then, after he gave his speech, he went to the airport, and he flew the helicopter to Chicago for the convention. So the convention's coming back to Chicago in August, and like for the possibility, maybe you have President Biden and perhaps even number 44 Obama come and visit here. I think that would be really cool. When you were the county commissioner, there was something that I was always really impressed with what you did. You always did your LaPorte County Business Spotlight. And now that you're the redevelopment committee, I'd like you do a Michigan City Business Spotlight.
Good idea.
I think that'd be, during your commission comments. If I may, I know there are people from outside the area that watch these meetings, downstate our investors, I'd like to advertise the lifeguard positions, because you might want to come up for your lifeguard, very well paying positions. Michigan City, Washington Park, lifeguards needed. We'll get a load of this. Lifeguard, $27.03 an hour. Assistant head lifeguard, $28.12 an hour. Head lifeguard, $29.20 an hour. Requirements: must have or obtain a lifeguard certification, must have a valid driver's license, must pass a drug screening. We'll have a free waterfront lifeguarding course. Dates to be determined. Submit applications to the Michigan City Fire Department Administration Building at 2510 East Michigan Boulevard. That's 2 doors over from the McDonald's there on the boulevard, or here at City Hall, 100 East Michigan Boulevard. Need for information? Send us a message or contact us at 219-873-1440, extension 440, or contact our public information officer at the fire department, Miss Tia Free at tfree@emichigancity.com. I want to thank you and good luck to the Marquette Boys Blazers. They're going to be playing the semi-state on Saturday. We're really glad we got to host that, and I hope we get to host that every year. So let's say thank you and good night.
Thank you. We appreciate your updates. Anyone else from the public who wishes to speak at this time?
Hello, board. Scott Mellon, 200 Kenwood Place. Just to go over a couple of things that went through tonight. There was no point to come up while they were happening. Apologies if I get the name wrong. Mr. Radke was granted $30,000. I didn't hear the total cost of this project.
I'm sure
Do you
it
have that
needs
handy?
qualifications.
75.
Okay, great. Just question. We all support that. On the 8th Street Interceptor, how many lineal feet of new sewer is involved now? Do we know? I mean, is it just a spot fix, or is it 200 feet, or what are we talking? And to follow that up, how many cubic yards of polluted earth have to be removed in the more expensive dumpster way?
Yeah.
I mean, I know we lost the engineer. Or,
Yeah, he's not here.
The second question is, we don't know yet.
Right.
Got an idea, but until you
Right.
actually get in there, you're not gonna know. And I don't know the answer to the first question, and I don't think I remember seeing that when I was going through their change order, but
Because it sounds like the new section won't need to be lined, if I understood what he was saying.
the new section will be lined, but the question is there needs to be a new sewer line,
Right,
some of which needs to be, well, the new sewer line needs to be, let me start over. There needs to be a new sewer line. Part of that new sewer line will include the trench interceptor.
okay.
So that's when we went, so that's why, I don't know that I actually know the actual specifics on that, but that's the way the project will go. And there will be a new sewer line. And as you heard Jared say, is that the part of the problem is in terms of just doing it within the existing one is because there are other utilities that were buried beneath the ground that nobody knew about beforehand either. So this is a better fix.
And you guys have to pay for this. It's gonna get reimbursed by the sanitary commission, it sounds
Right.
like. That's great. And the fence, this Myers fence. There's already a fence there. So we're gonna add a second fence? There's not a fence there. So we're gonna add a fence. Then the only question is, since it's not a security fence, it's really just a debris catching fence?
It's to keep the wetlands from getting
Yeah,
garbage in them, yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. And the
well,
city does get tons of complaints about that area.
Yeah,
Because of
it's unsightly.
It
Yeah,
is.
We all agree on that. Since it's not a security fence, could it be a 4-foot fence instead of a 6-foot fence?
It won't. We have a 4-foot fence there, snow fence, and it just doesn't do any good. 6 was about the extent that we were willing to go, just to make sure that it's similar to what Myers did.
I would have suggested to table that motion so that the fence companies could have done their due diligence to get the right length, so everybody was giving apples to apples comparison. That would have been my feedback had there been a chance. And what's the cleaning schedule for that? That'll be my last thing. Who's going to clean up the debris the fence catches?
It just gets added to a contract that we already have, or we work with the city.
Doesn't Myers have responsibility to keep things clean, or
So
once
they
it blows off
do.
their property?
So
they
once
don't?
that's right.
Yeah, that's
You hit the nail on the head. Once it blows off, it's an issue for everyone to deal with.
Well, if we
So-
can track pollution back to the original polluter, it's pretty obvious it flew from your parking lot.
Yeah, we actually do that. We issue fines and citations,
Mhm.
but I mean, you're dealing with it's not Joe Schmo homeowner. It's a conglomerate organization that we can only issue so much.
And it's the wind. Okay, thank you very much.
So, Mr. Mellon, you raised a good point, like your question about the details of the interceptor pipe.
Yeah.
If you have questions like that, because you come to all of our meetings, please feel free to ask those questions so that we can make sure the engineers give you the detail you need.
I'm still trying to figure out how it works. Some commissions ask for public comment per item,
Yeah,
so I'm just trying to be respectful.
yeah, no, I'm welcoming your input and your questions.
Thank you,
Yeah, thanks.
and thank you all.
Thank you. Any other member of the public online or in person that would like to speak? Hearing none, let's move on. Commissioner comments? Any comments from any of the commissioners? Well, I guess my comment would be, I love the Washington Park Boulevard Streetscape project. I don't know how that started because I just started in January. So I don't know what the impetus of that was, but wow, there's a lot of neighborhoods in Michigan City that would love to have something like that. I can think of some neighborhoods that would just benefit greatly from a streetscape project. So if this works out well and is a good model, I think we should expand it and see if we can get other funding for other neighborhoods as well. I think it's a great project, really exciting. Yes, Mr. Mellon.
I forgot my pen. I couldn't write anything down during the meeting. I'm sorry. On that bicycle trail, the Washington Street thing, we're kicking in 20% of $128,000. But the construction is scheduled to be about $1.5 million, if I remember correctly. if we get this parcel acquisition thing taken care of, what are the odds of the 80% of the construction money coming to us? Do you understand? How does that work?
It's we will get it. I mean, it is, we can't start until we get it. Yeah, the state will,
It's gonna happen.
it's
is what
gonna
you're saying.
happen.
Okay.
As I alluded to, I look at Jacob there, I'm like, NERC is a cycle. It's a 5, you have a TIP, Transportation Improvement Plan, and for the public, it's a 5-year cycle, Jake, correct? And the way projects work are you get planning money, right of way money, PE money, and then you get construction money. And those are the 5 kind of, if you think about it in a 5-year step, that's kind of the steps, or that's the steps you do. But that's how NERC works, and that's actually how most federal projects work with respect to where you're starting. You typically have to have a plan. You go through environmental process, the NEPA process, and then you get to a construction process. And then there's preliminary engineering and certain things like that, just for the public knowledge.
So once you get in the pipeline.
Once you're in the
pretty much assured
pipeline,
it's
I would say it's
How
not a,
NERC works.
yeah, I wouldn't say it's a 100%, but pretty close.
as long as
Yeah.
we fill out the paperwork correctly and do our.
Well,
due
NERC
diligence.
is an agency that has lots of steps, and if you are starting and you've met with the staff and it gets going, it's getting through the steps.
It sounds like a nightmare to deal with. And just what is NERC? What does that stand for?
Northern Indiana Regional Planning Commission.
Okay, thank you again.
Any other comments from the commissioners? Okay. Our next meeting date will be April 8th. And with that, let's adjourn our meeting. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for joining us.